If you're like me, interested in technical stuff, you might have looked at 3D printers, but you didn't really see the purpose for one. Well, let me show you what you can actually do with one. And especially if you're a woodworker, because I've used mine quite a lot. Let me show you 10 things that I have made and used a lot. To start with, we need a 3D printer. And I have this one, which is the longer LK5 Pro. It comes in at around $300. And 3D printers used to be quite expensive, but lately the prices have come down quite a bit. And $300 to be able to print the quality that this one does is actually pretty good. And the good thing about this one is that the build surface is actually 30 by 30 by 40 centimeters high. And that means we can print pretty large things, should we need to. And it's quite easy to use. You simply plug it in, load your filament, which is the plastic, and you're basically ready to go. This type of 3D printer usually comes semi-pre-assembled. That means you have to do some assembling yourself. For me, this printer took me around 30 minutes to assemble, just following the manual. Now, the second thing we need is a file, and there are two routes to go here. Either we take advantage of all the amazing people out there already designing stuff. One of the most commonly used sites online is Thingiverse. Here you can download things that other people designed for free. So basically, you could just buy a 3D printer without design skills and download files that other people did and print them. Once downloaded, you get an STL file, which is basically a 3D design file containing the information you need to print it. To send this to our 3D printer, we need a software, and I use a software called Cura, which is free to use. In Cura, you set up your printer, you can drag and drop the file that you've already downloaded, and you can hit slice. This will basically create a G-code file that contains all the information that your 3D printer needs to print the file. The longer 3D printer comes with a micro SD card and a USB card reader. When I have my file on the SD card, I can plug it into my 3D printer, and basically on the display I hit print. Now, the other route to go is actually creating the design files yourself. One common thing that I do in my workshop is making these 3D printed hose adapter for my dust collector. And it might be hard finding the correct dust adapter on Thingiverse, so I usually make them myself. And for that I use Fusion 360. In the program I can draw a circle with the diameter that fits my hose. I can then draw another circle offset a distance from the first one. And then I can simply attach them together with the loft command in Fusion. I can make it hollow basically in one go, and now that I have a 3D drawing of the object I want to print, I can export my file directly into Cura by clicking Make. My file will load in Cura, and I can go ahead and repeat the previous steps to start my 3D print. Now that we know how, let's talk about what we can actually use it for. In order to justify the 3D printer, we need to know if we're actually saving money on it. So whenever I find something similar to what I made, I'll put a cost comparison on screen so that you can see. I already mentioned the dust collector hose adapters, and I've made several of these. Some machines come with adapters, but in my experience they rarely fit. And to quickly be able to make these saves me both time, money, and it saves me from breathing in dust and also some cleaning. Another thing I recently made are these miter clamps. I actually redesigned them a bit to be a bit quicker to print, and now I have a couple of these miter clamps that come in handy all the time. And they actually work really well too. I clamp them onto my workpieces, and then I have this 45-degree angle to clamp the workpieces together. Another project I did a while back are these 3D printed runners. Most people use wood for this, and there is one obvious issue with that, as wood expands and contracts. And that may result in a table saw sled that doesn't run straight. And with 3D printing, the plastic will of course stay the same size. Centering jigs are a great way of finding the center for drilling or for drawing. And I made this one for drilling holes. You simply attach it to your workpiece, clamp it together, and you can drill down in the center of your workpiece. And I've used these quite a bit, especially when I was making my desk and I needed to drill perfectly centered holes to add dowels to glue it together. Another thing that I found very useful are simple paint cones. There are many options out there. I 3D printed these triangular shaped cones and they do the job perfectly. And it's just perfect to be able to raise your workpiece when adding finish or paint to it. If you don't have strap clamps, you can print these little guys and add your own strap to them, and they come really in handy when, for example, gluing up a mitered box. This ruler gauge is perfect for drawing lines aligned to your workpiece. This one has centimeter marks so that you can easily follow the line across the entire workpiece. But they do of course exist in Imperial as well. I don't know why you would want that, but I'm kidding, I know why you want it. You grew up with it and so on. Okay. To store my DeWalt batteries, I 3D printed these little guys and I can just hang them on the wall and my batteries are stored neatly. And the same goes for this one to be able to hang up my drill. Another thing that I printed that comes really in handy are these router templates, and they are just perfect to get rounded corners on a workpiece, and you can print several of these with different roundovers and you're just good to go with your router and a flush trim bit. Now the final thing is something that I don't use anymore, but I have actually used it in the past, and that is this pocket hole jig. I don't use it anymore because I have a more advanced pocket hole jig, and there are actually options of 3D printing more advanced versions than this one online as well. A good thing would be to insert some metal in the drill holes just to align your drill bit a bit better than the plastic would. I mean, just looking around my workshop, there are a bunch of things that I've 3D printed that I didn't mention right now. The storage for my sanding discs, the feet for my table saw, the logo on the wall, as well as the hangers for my ear protection. Lastly, I can say that I have used my 3D printers for some specific projects. Like for instance, when I was making the chair, I wanted to drill holes in a specific location, and then I could just use the drawing that I have to create some 3D printed drilling jigs. They were only used on that particular project, so it was a bit of waste, of course, but in that case, they really helped me. All this to say, if you get a 3D printer, there are a lot of use cases for it. Most of the stuff has already been thought of and can be downloaded online. But the real reward you get when you're able to solve a problem by designing something and 3D printing it yourself. If you want to know more about the longer LK5 Pro, I'll have a link down in the description. I'll also leave links to all the 3D printed parts I've talked about in the video. I've printed quite a few things on this printer and the quality compared to the price is actually really impressive. I mean, look at this smooth surface. Now for the cost of things, in the long run, as you can see on screen, you'll probably save money, and in my case, I'm not only using my 3D printer for woodworking, I solve problems all over the house. And in some cases, I even incorporate it in my projects, as you can see in this video where I made this stupid watch box. Well, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!